OK, you have been patient. I think it's probably a good place to pause and ask the burning question. Giallo? What is this obscure, much-heralded sub-genre, Giallo, so lauded and applauded by your Kim Newmans, your Marks, Kermode and Gatiss, and that whole Ponzi academic film studies lot? Well, Wikipedia, if you fancy it, will give you all the details, but in short, Giallo is a genre of Italian thriller movie, recognisable by certain recurring tropes. Arguments are still had among cineasts and students, but the first Giallo is usually considered a Mario Bava, an early one from 1963, The Girl Who Knew Too Much, aka The Evil Eye.
Chi è che urla? Chi è lei? Ma cos'è una trappola? Ma cosa dice? Che trappola? Mi lasci passare! Mi lasci passare! Nora! Nora!
A film predating today's Bay of Blood by nearly a decade. Trivia fans among you will be thrilled to know the name Giallo, which is Italian for yellow, of course, was inspired by the lurid, shocking, pulpy crime thrillers of the day, each one easily spotted by its distinctive yellow cover. Sleazy, gory ghastlies, which often inspired these stylistic cinematic dramas. Now, if you're just back from Blockbuster, or have just queued up something from Arrow, Shudder, or Netflix, and are not sure if what you're watching falls into the Giallo genre, then whip out a biro and start ticking off the tropes. Is it a very dark European murder mystery with a curiously unsexy, sexy overtone? Are there lots of close-ups of footsteps and flares? Do all the men wear black leather gloves? Are the murders quite slashy and expressionist? Is everything at an angle? Is there a smattering of supernatural aspects, some booby sex action, 3 or 4 confusing red herrings, 2 pouting and badly dubbed femme fatales, psychological thrills and spills with therapists, dreams, psychiatrists, and suppressed desire? And does a lush dramatic synthesizer score relentlessly hammer home the atmos? And finally, of course, does your movie have an unnecessarily baroque title with perhaps a number or an animal in it? The 7 whatnots of such and such, the 9 thingamabobs of doodah. If you can tick half of those, then congrats. You're in Giallo country. So, where were we? Ah, yes. De Laurentiis believed getting writer Sacchetti and Bava together could be to sleazy box office what getting Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy was to the Virginian Blue Ridge Mountain Tourist Board, just with more Italian corpses and less bowler hats. So he hurried together this collaboration. At that time, Bava was playing around with new movie ideas that might feature his current favourite performer, Laura Betti. Now, Betti had previously appeared in Bava's Hatchet for the Honeymoon, and the two had become thick as thieves, deciding to work together on plotting another project in which he could capture her delights and charms. In fact, when De Laurentiis set up a meeting with Bava, pushing Sacchetti's name as a potential co-writer, Bava and Betti were already pretty much settled on their next idea, entitled Odore di Carne, aka Stench of Flesh, a script about cannibalism in a Los Angeles college. But always open to creative input, a meeting followed, and Bava was happy to hear Sacchetti's thoughts. Lo, the pair began to workshop further plots and concepts, or at least get together over dough balls to rank their 14 favourite gruesome murder ideas. Scribbled notes from these meetings reveal it was Bava who conjured up the idea of 2 shaggers being skewered by a spear, or perhaps speared by a skewer. Plus, and he must have had a lot of espresso and gorgonzola before bed that night, the image of a hanged woman in a wheelchair. It was Sacchetti who brought in the third of the trio, Franco Barbieri, and the 3 began to piece together the 14 creative killings into a convoluted tale entitled Così imparano a fare I cattivi, aka That Will Teach Them to Be Bad, which was to be a line spoken by the 2 midwich moppets in the final scenes. Now, it's not clear at what point Bava expressed dissatisfaction with this new Barbieri character, taking against either his writing or his personality, but Bava parted ways with Barbieri on the project, and regrettably, good old Italian loyalty meant Sacchetti had to sort of quit as well, as an act of solidarity with his friend. So 3 became 1, as the Spice Girls thankfully never said. That would have been a video. Oh well, Bava probably thought, I can still make the movie, we've knocked together a first draft, and hell, I've got old Dino De Laurentiis on speed dial, who's pulled this whole thing together, so he'll be good for help, support, advice, covering expenses, and getting us through to production. However, 'twas not to be. time had been passing while Bava, Barbieri and Sacchetti had been tossing about stabbings and strangulations, and over a morning cappuccino and a copy of Variety, De Laurentiis was looking with a sense of deflation at some gloomy numbers. Cato Ninetails had been released across Europe and failed to set the box office alight. Giallo was not the instant golden goose, cash cow, or other pecuniary animal that it had appeared. There was no guarantee these sleazy, murderous thrillers, all shadowy, haunted repression and expressionistic throat slashings, would bring in the crowds. So he let Bava know he'd be stepping away. Bava now on his own, with a 90-page script of loosely tied together killings and nobody with a studio or a checkbook.